3, 2, 1.
Why did you do that first one? Hey guys, happy new comic book day and welcome to the very first episode of Comic Book Club.
Or Comic Book Club.
However you want to pronounce it. Today we're going to be taking a look at our latest comic book pickups as well as a little comic book discussion. We can talk comics. Sean, what did you pick up?
Not a big pickup this week. I picked up the trade paperback.
Yeah, trade.
I always say paperback trade. Of Reva, Volume 1. Very dark.
Very gritty story.
Gritty. I'm enjoying it. As well as issue 2 of both Power Rangers and Mighty Morphin.
Alright, that's fun. I picked up the issue 5 of Power Rangers as well as issue 18 of both X-Force and X-Men. I'm super excited for X-Men. I also got my Mark Brooks variant for Berserker 1 written by Keanu Reeves.
Yeah,
that's very... I'm quite chuffed with that pickup. I also picked up a trade, Once and Future, Volume 1, written by Kieran Gillen, drawn by Dan Mora. We need to discuss that one. And then I also picked up issue 12 of Thor, which is a perfect segue because today we decided we're going to talk about a character that is quite recognizable amongst moviegoers and comic fans or non-comic fans. I feel like people love
this character.
The God of Thunder,
the Prince of Asgard.
Though in this context, I do feel it's a bit.
No.
But we'll get back to that.
Yeah.
Yes, we are talking about Odin's son, Thor. But we're actually talking about the most current run of Thor, written by Donny Cates, pencils and inks by Nick Klein, and colors by Matt Wilson. Quite a wonderful book thus far. Like I said before, 12 issues in. The latest issue is 12. But today we're going to be covering the first arc, which is the first 6 issues.
Only 6 that I've read.
What an amazing book thus far.
Very good.
I know personally for myself, I haven't read a Thor book before this. I don't know about you.
Me neither. When I think of Thor, I think of Chris Hemsworth.
but you, I know you were a bit more. You're kind of reluctant to read this book because you're more of an indie fan, correct?
Yeah. So for me, I enjoy the Marvel movies, the MCU. So reading these comic books it's kind of like I'm worried that it's just going to be the same thing that I'm reading from the movies. But this run of Thor,
it's fun.
It's fun.
It's one thing I wanna also like say is that it's so great because Thor has been around, I think, till from the 60s or something, and that's like over 40 years, right, of the character in comic books. The fact that there's a story that started in 2019, like the fact that they're writing a story with the character that has so much history and still can tell such a fresh story. Such a wonderful story and fun story. It's just that for me. That is why I love comic books so much. You know, that's initially why I love comic books. But like Sean as well, I initially, because I'm a big X-Men fan, I would go to the comic book store and only kind of pick up X-Men books, some of the X books, because Dawn of X had just started, some of the X-Men books, Batman, my usual pickups. And then I think on 3 occasions, they were like, oh, are you picking up Thor? No. You picking up Thor? No. And then the one day I decided, okay, let me pick it up. Let me see what it's about. And man, was I. You know, in life, there's mistakes that cost you greatly. But then there's mistakes that's just so happy. And this is such a happy mistake. I'm so glad I decided to pick this book up because, man.
It is good.
It's so great. Before we jump into the nitty-gritty, we're not going to necessarily break down the story. We're just going to talk in general, the stuff that we kind of enjoyed from the first arc. Initially, for me, I love the fact that when you think Thor, you think, because Thor is a Norse god, Norse mythology, and you think Vikings, you think swords, you think in that fantasy setting. And for me, the fact that, and this is also what I loved about the movies as well, it's the fact that you have this like this fantasy setting, and it's mixed in with a cosmic setting, and just seeing how two different genres kind of morph together. Because if I'm not mistaken, I think that leads to why what actually initially got you hooked on the book.
Yeah, like I love the whole. I'm a big fan of D&D, and for me, Thor is kind of like D&D for me because it's like old school medieval.
Yeah,
North,
fantasy setting,
Vikings,
swords and things. Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed that. But what also got me into the Thor is the issue 1 cover is like the new design of his suit, and how he gets the design as well is also mind blowing. I thoroughly loved it. It's
You know what I'm mad about though?
what?
He didn't keep the beard.
Yeah.
So in the beginning of the book,
If you haven't read it, spoiler.
yeah, if you haven't read it, spoiler. But in the beginning of the book, so this comes straight out of War of the Realms, which I believe is Jason Aaron's run. And there Odin dies and Thor becomes king of Asgard. And I think there's a part of the story in order to gain knowledge on how to beat, I think at the time it was Ragnarok, and how to break that cycle of Ragnarok. If I'm not wrong. Thor had to give up his eye, same like Odin had to give up his eye, but I think Thor also gave up his arm
for more knowledge,
for the knowledge from the Odin Force, because you saw the ravens.
Yeah,
that comes with the Odin Force as well,
which is something I didn't know was a thing. I just thought because all Asgardians has their like powers, I didn't know the Odin Force was a thing.
Which is pretty cool. So basically, Thor, in the beginning of the story, Thor has the Thor Force, which is his lightning powers, his thunder god powers, and then he has the All Father, which is basically the All Father Force.
Yeah, because he's the king, so he takes over the Odin Force.
So already he has like 2 levels of power.
Huge.
And then he becomes a Herald of Galactus, and now he's got like the cosmic powers, which is super OP.
It's beautiful. It's just beautiful.
But it's for me, it's how Thor also has grown from a character.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I haven't picked up a Thor book before this, but I would assume that as like in the MCU, Thor's initial character was a very, like, I wouldn't say boastful, but very proud prince, and would attack things head on, kind of thing. Whereas now he's more strategic. It's kind of like in the MCU how he got cast out of Asgard,
and he has to
learn to be worthy, kind of again, and then eventually becomes stronger. He works well with others. He more strategic. I feel like this is the Thor that we're seeing now, and the fact that is, for me, this book put Thor on a map for me, because like I said, I'm an X-Men fan, and like Iron Man, Captain America, they're cool characters, but I don't necessarily go into the comic book store looking for their books.
Yeah, because I mean the MCU does such a good job already with those characters.
Exactly, which is a good and a bad thing. It is a good and bad thing, because if you've watched an MCU movie and it's encouraged you to want to read a comic book, let us know in the comments below. But I know for myself, I didn't go looking for a Thor book. I found it and I'm quite happy with it. I'm thoroughly enjoying, because with the second arc, let us know if you want us to cover the second arc. Because I've read it, you haven't read it yet.
I haven't read it. We'll probably still cover it, because if it's as good as the first arc or even better,
I think it's even better.
We'd have to make a video about it.
Also, I think what makes this book so great is because it's a good starting point, because like you and I don't necessarily have the history with Thor. We haven't been reading Thor for like 20 odd years. But this book has those little histories or those little keys to it, to the history. And the second arc really expands on that. And if you're reading Thor and you've read the second arc, comment below. No spoilers though. Or spoil. It's fine.
You can spoil for him because he's read it as well. But if I read a spoiler, it's
just spoil. It's fine. He won't mind. Alright, now if we take a look at the more critical side of things, because if you don't know us, Sean and I both studied animation, and with animation comes the initial ability to design and draw and everything. So we do have a bit of education in that sense. So, which is kind of a blessing and a curse though, because you ever watch something or read something and you're like,
you could have done it this way, or why was it written that way?
Exactly.
We're more critical to what we read or what we watch now, and it's not something that we can turn off. I mean, if I have to be like extremely tired to be like monkey brain to watch something without criticizing or judging or trying to look for mistakes.
Exactly. It's a blessing and a curse though.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's good. Because when we're doing a story or reading something like Thor, you're looking not only at the story, the dialogue and how things are progressing, but you're looking at the artwork as well. And
exactly.
for me, if the story is garbage or crap and the artwork can help it pick it up,
it does boost that a little bit, makes you want to pick up the book a bit more.
Yeah.
Whereas if the story is really good and the artwork's not really up to par,
it can ruin the
it
story,
does because at the end of the day you are reading a comic book.
Yeah.
But like I wanted to say, with the knowledge that we have, and I feel like artists and videographers can share our pain. Like you're not looking at things with the naked eye, you're kind of looking at it more critical. But it also gives you an appreciation for certain things. Like this is why I love comic books as well, you know.
And this current run of Thor, for me, the artwork is brilliant. It is gorgeous.
It's
along
phenomenal.
with the story, it's top tier.
It's really good. Like I was saying to Sean, the fact that you're reading a Thor book and Nick Klein's artwork mixed with Matt Wilson's colors, so the reason why, this is why I find it so great. So the art is so great and complements the story so well is because Nick Klein's artwork has a very water brush or very like sketchy style in a sense. I can't get to the right words, but it has a very, it's not rough, but it's sketchy. Not like bad sketchy, like sketchy. And in Matt Wilson's colors, it's not vibrant, but it's also not super desaturated. It's got like a nice level of saturation. It makes you feel like you're reading a Nordic story, which is really great. Mixed with Donny Cates' genius, that just, man,
it's just good.
That's just why this book went from like off the radar onto the radar for me. Definitely.
I'll definitely keep an eye out for who's writing it?
Donny Cates.
Donny Cates.
Yeah, he's currently he's finishing his run on Venom on issue 200, but he currently has a series out called King in Black, which ties into Venom as well, which is a pretty good book. Also there as well, artist on that is Ryan Stegman. Ryan Stegman has like this amazing blocky style that just elevates the story to a whole new level. Thank you so much for joining us today. Let us know what's your favorite books, what you're reading, and if you're not reading anything, why the hell not? Be sure to catch us next week for New Comic Book Day.
Also check out our Facebook group, Pocket Dimension. Pretty cool people in there. Also like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, also Pocket Dimension.
Dimension out.